Welcome to Faith, Fuel, and Fitness, the Integrity Way, with your hosts, John and Debbie Morris from Integrity Training Systems.
Hey, everybody. We're so glad to be back. It is the week of coming off of having what felt like everyone we knew being sick.
Yeah, we're just going to let February 1st hit and pretend like that's the first day of the new year, and January doesn't exist.
Exactly.
It's going to delete the month.
We're pretty positive. Well, I guess I could say I am a really
You're a positive person.
I'm a really optimistic person.
I am a pessimist that tries really hard to actually think good things happen.
And then you'll just be like, never mind.
Yeah.
None of that's going to happen.
And then I'll break a table
out of
or something.
That is exactly what you do. Yes. But anyways, I try to be very optimistic every single day and believe that God has a plan and he's our source and he's in control. And January really challenged me on that topic, because of the COVID. And just the COVIDs and just everyone on the planet having COVID, with the exception of me. Praise God. Yeah. Hallelujah. Praise the Lord.
Yeah, it's like, let's have an autoimmune disease and, basically get sicker than anybody and be able to get sicker than anybody and be the only person that doesn't get it.
Well, I'm so thankful for sure. But we definitely, through the process, it's like we've learned so much in the past month.
I love chicken noodle soup.
Right. You know that. Gluten-free chicken noodle soup. I made 5 batches in 10 days.
Yeah.
But we learned about our business in ways that I don't know. I don't think we would have honestly learned had we not gone through the process, because we ultimately were able to see where the inefficiencies lie, where things are not being done, because I was doing them while everybody was sick. And then it was like, wait a minute, wait a minute.
Right.
And then it was like, oh gosh, then you realize how amazing your staff is. Yep. Just how hard they work and how many things that they do. And you just have this crazy amount of gratitude for how hard they work.
Well, and everything
I'm so grateful.
Everything they do, we've done.
Right.
It's like it's been a task that we've done before and it's been given to someone else because we've moved on to doing other things, and that's how you grow a business.
Right.
But it's not that you forget and take those things for granted, but you just truly get so far removed from them that you don't realize, holy cow, like we really need these people. Not that you ever don't think you do, obviously, but
sure. It's
just kind of like an eye-opening, oh man, like we really rely heavily on our employees.
Absolutely. And so that January is usually in the fitness industry, that's your month.
Yeah.
I mean, that is your month that builds your year, basically. This is how you basically establish, all of your new business for the year. And so for the first 2 weeks of the year, we had 10 days where it was sort of like, well, let's just go ahead and all go on vacation at the same time.
Right.
And so we've decided that February 1st is the new January 1st for us.
Good.
And so we're ready to kind of start the year that way. But ultimately, through the process of, being downregulated, having to work from home, having so many people out and going through this process of still trying to keep everything going, what I learned is that I can go really long periods of time without eating.
Or sleeping.
And without sleeping. And with an autoimmune disease, I'm not 100% certain I should do either of those things. But my point in telling you this is that a lot of times people think that fasting is this great way to weight loss and that you should fast for weight loss.
Right.
And then other people think that fasting is super dangerous. It'll cause a cortisol response and you shouldn't do a fast just because it can cause your body to adrenalize and really slow down your adrenals. And both of those to some extent can actually be true.
Right.
But what I've determined and what I spent many years studying is that if you're unable to fast for an entire day or for half of a day or for 3/4 of a day, you really need to consider yourself metabolically inefficient. So if you cannot go until noon one day without eating anything. I'm not saying you have to. I'm not saying this is the only way you should live.
If you cannot, physically.
If you're in a position and your body just simply will not allow you to do it, then you really truly need to consider yourself metabolically inefficient, because you are not trying to utilize fat as your energy source. Your body is so insulin dependent, right, that it will only fire and it will only work correctly if it's just, where's the next log of insulin that we're putting on the fire? And then it's kind of like, okay, well, we don't have time for the log. We left the house without the log. There's nowhere we can stop for a log.
Quick trip.
We are in a surgery. We can't do a log. There's like a lot of reasons why you can't put the next insulin log on the fire, right? But if you find that you're in that position, and I just want to give people this thought, and you truly feel like you just can't do it, you get super, super shaky, you feel like you're going to pass out, you are super angry and very irritable.
It's called hangry.
Yeah, exactly. Hangry. These are the things that you want to take into consideration. It means you're just metabolically inefficient. And you need someone to help you to stabilize your blood sugar.
And I joke about hanger, but it's a valid thing, because you're actually dealing with the chemistry of your brain. And so what you're doing is you're putting yourself in a situation where you've become so imbalanced that you actually start to lose control of your emotional responses.
Right.
So the irritability, it's like, if you find yourself questioning why you're irritable or having to apologize for it later because you recognize the irrationality of it, you probably aren't even, it's your fault that you let your insulin get there, but it's not really your fault in that moment, because you're reacting from a chemical imbalance. It's no different than someone who's chemically bipolar or manic depressive with chronic anxiety. It's like you are acting from a lack of equilibrium in your brain.
So what does blood sugar stability mean? It means balance. It really does. It means being able to look at your plate and say, okay, I'm eating a carbohydrate, yes, and it doesn't necessarily have to be bread. It doesn't have to be potatoes. It could be broccoli. It could be cauliflower. It could be green beans. It could be asparagus. It could be berries. Those are all carbohydrates, and you can consume almost 100 grams of carbs in a day just simply from those foods that I just mentioned.
Right.
You don't have to have starch so that you can keep chasing that insulin fire and need more starch log to be able to continue through your day. You also have to be able to look at your plate and see quality fat. You need to be able to see quality protein. What do the fat and protein do for you? They stabilize the blood sugar.
Right.
They build the blood sugar with the carbohydrates, okay, but then they stabilize it with the fat and with the protein. So it's very, very important that you keep it balanced. Healthy fats are truly, in my opinion, if you were going to just put me on an island somewhere and say, this is all you get to eat, this is it, you decide, I would choose healthy fats.
Right.
Because I would know that my brain could withstand a longer duration of living, because I could potentially rely on just ketones as my energy source and go into ketosis.
I'm going to choose starches because I'm going to die happy. So.
Exactly right. I'll be like 185 years old on the island.
I'm going to maybe make 40.
And we both know that every animal on that island will be following me around, and I will be like Mother Debbie. Yeah. Yes, like the Disney movie. Exactly.
Yeah, no, but you know what's interesting about you saying that, Deb, is for me, like, I struggle with, like, right now I'm in a growing phase. I'm trying to put muscle on, right? I don't gain muscle if I'm in ketosis. So if I'm functioning without carbs and starches, I feel phenomenal. You're talking about the brain balance. That's the best place for my brain to be. So on like a daily basis, from a energy perspective and from the balance of my brain chemistry and fasting, I intermittent fast when I'm cutting or when I'm training for a tournament. And there's times I'll make it to 1 p.m. and I've gotten up at 4 a.m. and I'm like, shoot, I haven't eaten. It's like it's the thought process of I haven't eaten is what spurs me to eat, not hunger. Right now, I'm having carbs. I get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, and by 6 a.m., I'm like, man, I need my oatmeal. I'm looking.
You're hungry right away.
And so you just have to, it's like right now, it's like I'm growing. So I'm using those starches for growth, but I do have to consider, it's a mind and body balance. You have to be careful not to let yourself end up in that equilibrium.
I want to talk about that balance when we come back after this break, because I really do want people to understand there are ways to actually gain muscle without having to eat carbs all day long. You can stabilize your blood sugar and you can stabilize your brain. And I do want to talk a little bit more about healthy fats and what healthy fats you would be looking for to be able to stabilize it. This is what we do with our 6-month nutrition program at Integrity. For more information on that, you can go to integritytrainingsystems.com, or to schedule a free personal fitness assessment with any of our personal trainers to identify any muscle imbalances or postural deviations that you have. You can give us a call at 636-299-2208. All right. So good to be back with you guys. We're talking about blood sugar balance, blood sugar stability, and the importance of healthy fats, and the fact that I'm okay with being on an island with only fat, and John is okay with being on an island with only carbs, which I don't blame him, because that would be very
easy too. I mean, I tell people, like, if the zombie apocalypse happens, I'm dying in one of those candy stores in a mall.
Right.
Like, that's where I'm going out. Like, just on a straight up sugar coma. There are actually going to be zombies that get the diabetes from eating me. Yeah.
Okie dokie.
All right. So, sorry, a little side note. You can continue.
So what are healthy fats, right? This is the question. So if someone's out there is trying to balance their meal and they say, okay, I have plenty of vegetables on my plate. I know I have some chicken or I have some beef or some fish or something like that. So they know they have healthy protein. But how do they get a healthy fat in with that?
Right.
Quality healthy fats would be olive oil, avocado, it would be nuts and seeds, preferably pumpkin seeds over sunflower seeds. It's going to be up to you on whether or not you would choose to bring dairy in. It would, in my opinion, need to be organic dairy if you're going to bring it in. And I would suggest only using, grass-fed butter or ghee. I don't usually put a lot of my clients on dairy in the beginning because most people are sensitive to it and they don't realize it until they actually step away from it. And then
even if they're not the way that you're eating at that time, the people that will come to you have their systems in such a disarray that they would have a response to the dairy, even if they don't actually have any kind of situation.
It just helps us to get to a better gut health situation. Yeah, for sure. Because if your gut is off, then everything is off. So adding those healthy fats can really help to balance you. Olives would be a great addition, a great quality fat. You could add egg yolk. That would be a great quality fat. There are salad dressings made now, like the Primal salad dressing or Primal mayonnaise, there's just so many different brands out there. But now there are quite a few that are made with avocado oil, so you can actually buy a dressing.
This is one thing I want to point out, and you can kind of expand on this just a little bit, but you said egg yolk, right? Mm-hmm. So people don't realize that the yolk would actually be a quality fat. So if you're having eggs and you choose to have the yolk, that's going to be something to consider. That goes for like what your protein source is too. So if you're having like turkey versus say a fatty steak, you start to talk about the balance where you're mentioning fats, proteins, and carbohydrates. And that's what Debbie does where it goes above my head, is balancing that for an individual. But I just recently was working with someone who was trying to do turkey for all of their protein, but they're having a starch. And their fat was too low. So what's happening is they're spiking their insulin with that starch, and then their protein source isn't high enough, and then the fat that they were adding isn't high enough to sustain that fall. So can you just talk just a little bit about that?
And like an example of another quality fat would be coconut oil or MCT oil. So let's say, for example, if someone wanted to have a starch and they're trying to put on muscle, but they're having turkey, we would have them add MCT oil to their oatmeal. And that MCT oil is metabolized by the body basically like a fat, so it doesn't raise your blood sugar, but it's utilized from an energy standpoint for the body like a carbohydrate.
Right.
So it actually makes you stronger. It makes you feel like you are more energized from having it. Where something like avocado oil or olive oil is fantastic for helping you to lower blood pressure, to lower cholesterol, but it's a great way to stay balanced. One thing that you want to consider when adding healthy fats, there is a way to cook with healthy fats and there's a way not to cook with healthy fats. There is a heat temp, and you want to take that heat temp seriously. I would not skip olive oil at all because it is amazing for you. So please make sure you cook with olive oil, but you need to make sure you're cooking on low to medium heat, and you need to make sure it's 325 degrees or lower because it will oxidize and damage, and it will become a pro-inflammatory oil if you take it. So it'll be this great oil, it's great for you, and then all of a sudden you turn it into this toxic substance. Right. So you've got to be careful with that. Avocado oil goes up to 500 degrees. So if you want something seared and kind of have a little bit of crispness to it, you can by all means use avocado oil. So that's just something to take into consideration. I won't bore you with all the different fats, but those two are very important in my opinion. Balanced blood sugar equals balanced brain. Okay, it equals balanced mood, and it reduces inflammation because it controls the rate at which food converts to sugar. So the way I always show it is it's almost like, okay, we build our blood sugar, and right as it starts to fall down, there's like a pillow just being there. You just land it, so that it can land on, and then just slowly lets the blood sugar go down. But it also changes the rate at which how quickly it will convert as well. All of that has to do with how inflamed we are, how swollen we are, how hungry we are. Like you said, that person's hungry because they don't really have any fat. So they're just spiking their blood sugar from all that oatmeal.
Right.
You're hungry as soon as you wake up because you've been eating a lot of oatmeal.
Right.
Where when you were training for your jiu-jitsu competition, you were intermittent fasting and you were basically staying on a cyclical ketogenic
I was having
diet.
to force myself to eat.
Right.
Because I
was having to remind you.
Yeah, I was going to be like, and then I would have times in the evening where I could tank, I'd run out of energy, but even then I'm not looking for food. It's just like, I better put some gas in the tank.
Right. And if you're baking and you're trying to use healthy fats while baking, let's say you're wanting to make a recipe for a brownie or a recipe for a muffin or even cookies for that matter, and we own a healthy bakery, so we have a little experience in this. We have a gluten-free, dairy-free healthy bakery, so I kind of will swap things that doesn't necessarily bring dairy in or doesn't necessarily bring gluten in for that reason. But if you want to cook with a healthy fat, if something calls for butter, just replace it with coconut oil. So the exact amount, just replace it with coconut oil. For example, if I wanted to make cookies, I would take that coconut oil and put it in my mixer, and I would start whipping it and turning it into a butter. And then I would start throwing my dry ingredients in like that. So that's how I would come up with the texture of a cookie. If I wanted to make a muffin, then I would melt that coconut oil, and then that's how the muffin would ultimately end up rising. So I would make it just a little bit differently. But you can always swap a coconut oil for butter to be able to have a little bit healthier fat and a little bit cleaner fat for you to bake with. So that's just another. And then also when it comes to artificial ingredients, when you're thinking about baking something, or when you're thinking about trying to come up with a design for a healthy fat, and you're throwing a sauce on your food, or you're throwing some type of seasoning, or you're throwing some type of salad dressing, if you have artificial ingredients in that, you are poisoning your body, and you're never going to reap the benefit of those quality fat ingredients that are in there. We can talk more about those artificial ingredients when we come back, but you have to understand that there are good fats and there are bad fats. Things like canola oil, soybean oil, sunflower oil, peanut oil, corn oil, these are even sesame oil. These are your pro-inflammatory oils. Those are going to create inflammation in the body. So you really want to try to stay away and navigate away from those. If your ingredients on a food say that, that's something you'd like to try to stay away from. This is the type of information that we help you navigate in our 6-month nutrition program. For more information on doing nutrition with us at Integrity Training Systems, you can take a look at us at integritytrainingsystems.com. And for more information on a free personal fitness assessment with any of our personal trainers, you can give us a call at 636-299-2208.
All right, everybody. Thanks for coming back with us here. We were talking a little bit before the break about the difference between healthy fats and non-healthy fats. Deb had mentioned that the fats that she listed off, which is too scientific for me, so I'm not going to try to rehash that. There are pro-inflammatory fats, which is not a good thing. That means that it's actually promoting inflammation in your body. And then there are fats that are actually anti-inflammatory that you can bring in. And I like to stress this because we're not talking about the difference between something that does create inflammation and something that doesn't create inflammation. We're talking about the difference between something that does create inflammation and something that actually helps reduce inflammation in your body. So it's that different. And these are the types of things that our nutrition program actually teaches you. These are the types of things that I can't even really teach you, where you're stuck maybe in a position and you're trying to be healthy. You think you're doing things right. You've gone from eating fast food every day and drinking soda every day, but you're just eating plain chicken and green beans 3 times a day. You're about to poke your eyes out because you're ready for some flavor. You're tired of the same thing, but your weight's not moving and you're not feeling well. Your energy regulation's off. You know, you're ready to give up because you are literally doing the strictest diet in the world, which is unnecessary, and you don't feel well.
Right. I mean, the only thing I can say about, some of those pro-inflammatory foods is that poison in moderation is still poison. So a lot of times people like to say, well, moderation, balance, right. But you're balancing poison. And so when is the day when it's going to explode in your face, right? I mean, when is the day that, wow. I mean, Airplane. I guess I'm just not used to that.
Yeah, no,
it's
we
never
haven't
done
had
it
that
since you've been here.
Yeah.
Anyways, when is the day when it just literally becomes, okay, your balance is off because your moderation was you're not moderate enough anymore.
Right.
You don't realize that there's stuff going on inside your body, and the inside of your body is creating sort of like a time clock. And at some point, your moderation, your balance with all that poison, it's just not enough. And so people tend to give up in that moment.
Well, and when you talk about that moderation, it's always a pros and cons for me. Like when you're talking to someone and they're like, well, do you think I should have a cheat day? Do you think I should have a cheat meal? What is the pro? Is the pro just that you missed the flavor of something? Is the pro that you just missed the excitement of having a drink with your friends? Like, what is the pro? Because the con list is pretty long for most people. Maybe you're not someone who gains weight when you eat that stuff, but are you someone that has some kind of mental reaction to it? Maybe you're not someone who, has any of that happen on the first time, but because you've had one, you landslide for a week. Then it gets negative. Right. Are you that person? It's like there's a lot of ways that the moderation can go wrong for you.
Right. Absolutely. I just personally say focus on the ingredients, focus on health. Don't chase a bunch of macros every day for the rest of your life. Don't live your life on a scale. Really work on trying to create a quality balance with quality ingredients and focus on feeling great every single day.
Right.
I don't really know that there's going to be room for a bunch of poisonous ingredients to truly have that healthy lifestyle. And a lot of times, what I will say to people, and this is just simply a quote, and I don't know if this was an Eric Thomas quote or where it was from, but it's a slow process, but quitting won't get you there faster. Right. So let's say you have an off meal and you kind of blow it. And so now it means it's going to slow down the weight loss. It means it's going to take a couple more weeks for you to really kind of get back to where you were before. Oh, well, It's a slow process, but if you fully quit and you stop, it's not like it's going to make it any better. It's not like you're going to get there any faster. You look at it from a day-to-day perspective and you say, no, I'm gonna stay committed. I'm going to get back on track. I kind of blew it last week. I'm gonna get back on track this week, and I'm gonna end up having a great weekend. I'm gonna end up having a great next week. Might take me a couple days to get over the hump. Might take me a couple days to get into a better spot, but I'm going to get to a better spot, because just because I made a couple bad decisions doesn't mean my life has to become a bad decision.
Well, and you've said this before, and I have actually just reiterated this here recently, that make your next meal a clean meal. Make your next meal a good choice. I've got a gentleman, he's got a very similar situation to me, where if the food that he wants is in front of him, things like candies, cakes, snacks, chips, even just something that he can slam down, if it's in his house or if it's in front of him and he sees it, he eats it. But if it's not, he does phenomenal. Like when he's on the road traveling for work and stuff, the guy is locked in. And one thing I told him that I'm really trying to work with him on is you don't blow it because you ate the cupcake at 8 a.m. It's not, your day isn't done. It doesn't mean that at noon you should just be like, well, whatever, I'm just going to have whatever I want for lunch because I already had that stupid cupcake today. And then because it's Friday, you're like, well, I guess I've already screwed the weekend up. I'll get back to it Monday. Like that's giving up. That's not going to get it for you. You say, I had a cupcake this morning at 8 a.m. Screw it. I'm locked back in. When I eat my lunch at noon, it's going to be what it's supposed to be.
Right. It just has to be that way. Otherwise, you're just chasing a diet for the rest of your life. You're always chasing calories, and you're chasing
and you're going to live in a
scale.
You're going to live in a state of feeling like you've failed
all the time.
And it's not gonna be positive for you. Whereas if you just accept that you ate a cupcake and eat your meal at noon like you're supposed to, you just move on.
I really like Jocko Willink, and it's Jocko, which is just a cool name. Period. Yeah, and
he needs to come hang out at our gym sometime.
I feel like if I had a boy, I would name him Jocko.
Okay, well, I'll note that, I guess, if we ever do look into adoption.
Right, Jocko. Yeah, that'd be a good name, don't you think?
Okay.
Are you in for that?
I'm in.
Okay, I don't think we're going to have any more kids, but I'm just saying Jocko would be a solid name. Right. But he has a book called Discipline Equals Freedom. He also has a book that I really like that is called The Code. The Code is a fantastic book. It is like a little bitty handbook. It's nothing major, but it is an excellent book. And it is the kind of stuff that I've been preaching to people for years. I feel like this guy's just like, he just was like in my head, and he just knows the types of things that I've been trying to teach clients over the years. And I love that I can be in sync, feel like someone is in sync with my thinking. He is a retired Navy SEAL. And he, goes around and does incredibly inspiring work to help motivate people to be disciplined. And I hate the word motivate there, but it's honestly what he does. He teaches them the principles of being disciplined. And in the book called The Code, he's basically outlining just a general code. And he's basically saying, like, what is your code? And I've always said that. But what I always say is, what is your creed? Right. What is your creed? What do you stand for? And I've always stood for integrity. And that is why our business is called Integrity, because I believe that what you do when no one is watching really matters. And so what do you do on the days that you don't feel like it? You get up and do it anyways.
Yeah, you should do the same thing you do on the days you do feel like it.
You get up and do it anyways.
That's actually what discipline means.
Right. And so if I'm trying to teach my daughter that she needs to be healthy, and she needs to not eat sugar all the time. She needs to try to stay gluten-free because of the health issues that she's having. What am I teaching her if I just sit and eat all of it right in front of her and act like it's an okay thing to do?
Right.
So he has this book called Discipline Equals Freedom. I consider it basically what I like to call a devotional on discipline. And what I mean by that is you can read 2 pages and leave.
There's your next book name, Jocko, The Discipline Devotional.
Right, exactly. But I feel like you can read 2 pages and it just sets you apart.
Yeah.
There are 2 pages that I'm going to read that are super fast. It's a super fast 2 pages. Yeah. This is good stuff. And if people can digest this, I think it can be altering in a way that you can see significant changes in your health. Yeah. It says, where does discipline come from? Where does discipline come from? This is a simple answer. Discipline comes from within. Discipline is an internal force. Sure, you can have discipline imposed on you by a person like a drill instructor or that self-help guru on TV, but the reality is he won't give you real discipline because that external discipline is not strong. It will not survive. It cannot stand on its own. What you're looking for, what you need is self-discipline. Self-discipline, as the very term implies, comes from the self, you. It comes when you make a decision to be disciplined, when you make a decision to be better, when you make a decision to do more, to be more. Self-discipline comes when you decide to make a mark on the world. If you don't think you are disciplined, it is because you haven't decided to be disciplined yet. It is because you haven't created it yet. You haven't became it yet. So where does discipline come from? It comes from you. So make the decision, make the commitment, become the discipline, embrace its cold and relentless power, and it will make you better and stronger and smarter and faster and healthier than anything else. And most important, it will set you free. He always says discipline equals freedom. And I fully believe that. I live this. This is, I love the Bible and I read the Bible every day, but that concept is it's just at the base of my foundation of living and how I instruct with people. And it is unfortunately my best quality and it is my worst quality because it makes me less nurturing. It makes me less forgiving because I believe get up and choose to do it.
Right. Well, people ask me, I've had clients for the entire duration of the time that I have been in the fitness industry that have said, man, I wish I had your motivation. If I was as motivated as you, I could do this thing. I could stay in shape. I could eat the way I'm supposed to eat. And I always tell them, like, you do not want my motivation. I mean, yeah, I listen to motivational videos. I watch them. I listen to it through my headset. I listen to it while I'm on the treadmill, and motivation is great, but motivation is fleeting. What you want is my discipline, because my discipline makes me do it when I don't want to do it, which is, if we're being honest, 9 times out of 10. Take today, for instance. I actually love jujitsu. Jujitsu is one of the forms of exercise that I get great joy out of. But I've been having a little bit of trouble sleeping for a week now. And this morning I got up early. I took Sophie to school. I got a bunch of stuff done. And I came home and I'm like, man, I'm pretty tired. I'm going to take a 30-minute nap before I go to jiu-jitsu. My alarm goes off and it's beep, beep, beep. And I'm like, oh man, nobody knows that I'm going to jiu-jitsu today except for my wife. But, if I tell her I just really wasn't feeling it, she's not going to harp on me. And I had a battle with myself. Like, I'm not going to go. I want to go. This is a fun thing for me. So if I don't want to go, I shouldn't go. But it's more than that. It's actually a way I exercise my body. I exercise my mind. So I got up and I went. And the point of this is, Jocko, I think, has said this, and I've adapted this, a version of it. And what I say is, if you make the decision to be disciplined, then when it comes time to make decisions, you don't have to make as many of them, because the discipline has already set it for you.
Right.
So if your discipline is, I've made my food for the week, I'm just going to eat it, then when you're hungry, you don't have to decide to not eat garbage. Mm-hmm. If your discipline is at 6 a.m., I'm doing this, at noon, I'm going to jiu-jitsu, then when noon hits and the alarm goes off, you get up and say, I'm going to jiu-jitsu, not I'm going to hit the alarm and snooze and get nothing out of this except for what? Maybe a little bit of rest. I'm going to do that tonight when I go home.
That's right.
You have to choose the discipline. And getting that implemented is what's going to make you able to make it through your days and be successful.
And you just have to keep repeating that. We'll talk about that a little bit more when we get, off this break, but we'll talk about how can you continue with a pattern of discipline. And it is actually what we teach. It's what we teach in our personal trainers teach. It's how we instruct. We don't motivate like cheerleaders. We teach discipline because we want you to stick with it. For more information on a free personal fitness assessment with our trainers, you can call us at 636-299-2208. And to try to get more information on our 6-month nutrition program, you can take a look at us at integritytrainingsystems.com.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. Thanks for hanging in there with us. Right before the break, we were talking about the Discipline Equals Freedom, Jocko Willink's book, Jocko Willink's Style, one that we very much believe in. And we were just talking a little bit about, on our break here, how discipline is a large part of why we have a gym. The belief that you have to build that discipline, the belief that people have to change their lifestyle to be successful in not only just their fitness and health walk, but just life in general. We used to function out of multiple other locations, and we just one day decided not everybody shares the same concepts. Not everybody has the same views that we do. Not everybody has the same ideas and philosophies that we do, in that health is what should be set first and that discipline is required to be healthy. And so it's just a part of why we decided we needed to create our own environment that we could preach that out of. And that's why we opened our location. Now, we do have a location, obviously, still down in Clayton. Down in Clayton that we operate out of as well, but that's a little bit of a different deal, and there's not as much headbutting as some of the locations that we were at, where you're just dealing with a gym owner that may not have the same belief system that you do. But discipline is just so important, because if you wake up every day and you rely on motivation and last minute planning to get things done, you're actually battling chemistry, you're battling decision making, and you're putting yourself in a position where you're kind of setting yourself up for failure. And to a certain extent, I feel like some people do that just to give themselves a way out. Well, I just wasn't prepared today. Well, why?
Excuses are crutches for the undisciplined.
Right. Exactly. And if you choose to live your life that way, you're going to be in a repetitive cycle of never finding the success that you're looking for.
Well, never really truly fulfilling the call and purpose that I feel like God has on your life.
Right.
Because how could you when you don't
feel well?
You don't feel well, first of all.
Right.
And don't you think that there's probably that still small voice speaking? I mean, there's healthy conviction, right?
Right.
So when you're thinking about doing something you shouldn't, don't you feel that healthy conviction?
Well, and that's the whole thing.
Don't you feel it knock on you a little bit?
Well, and that's actually part of what our job is.
Right.
I have clients that train with me that are they're phenomenal athletes. They look amazing. They feel amazing. And they literally have friends that say, why do you work with a trainer? Have you not figured out how to work out yet?
Right.
Well, of course they have. Now, I make it easy for them. I point, I tell them what to do. I tell them how many reps. They don't have to think about it. That they like that.
Right.
But the reality is, I am that still small voice. Mm-hmm. If you can't do it yourself, if you can't figure it out, if you can't program the discipline, then maybe the discipline is finding someone to help you.
Exactly.
It's the build out. It's
right.
No different than me. I had a conversation with one of my clients before. She's lost a lot of weight. She's done really well. She's lost over 100 pounds. She's still losing. She's changing her shape. She's doing fantastic. And one day she's having a conversation with me about how she feels like a failure because if there's bad food in her house, she slips up and she eats it. And I'm like, do you think I'm a failure? And she's like, oh gosh, no. It's like we get pedestaled, right, as gym owners. No, you're not a failure at all. I'm like, I am the exact same. If you leave candy or cake or any form of dessert in my house, I'm going to decimate it. My discipline is it doesn't come in my house.
Right.
That's the discipline. I would have to rely on decision making and motivation to not eat it out of my pantry.
Right.
I'm going to fail there. Acknowledging that doesn't make me weak. It makes me strong. I discipline myself to keep it out.
Right. And I think you could find a whole bank of people that you could hang out with that'd be like, oh, man, come on, John, let's go out and eat cheeseburgers. Let's
right.
go out and have pizza.
Right.
Come on, let's go have some candy.
Right.
So really, you're like an alien, when you are trying to be disciplined. Yeah. But there is a bank of people that you can tell in this, social media world that are to some extent attempting to try to take things to a different level. And what I have found in my career and over the past 22 years is what I have tried to do is go to the folks that want to take their life to a different level. Maybe that's a CEO. Maybe it is a preacher. Maybe it's a pastor of a church. And they lead an entire congregation. I don't care what the person is. If it's a doctor, I don't know what the situation is. If it's a mother that's at home with 5 kids, and I've tried to help them take their life to a premium level. And I mean to the top of what they can be. And at the end of the day, the catalyst to that change, the most significant catalyst, is always what they put in their mouth.
Right.
It's always what they put in their mouth, what they will allow themselves to eat. And when you don't have to look at it as restriction. You look at it as a healthy guardrail. You look at it as a healthy boundary, but you have to say, I will choose to be disciplined to not hit the snooze button. I will choose to be disciplined to make my bed. I will choose to be disciplined to keep my car clean. I will choose to be disciplined to do my laundry and not have it laying all over my house. I will choose to be disciplined, to keep my desk organized. Guess what? If you start doing all of these things, you will feel 25% less panicked in your day.
And I'll tell you,
you'll feel like you can actually take the time to prep your food, to go to the grocery store, to do these things.
I'll tell you, the reason I think people fail so much with discipline is work. So at the end of the day, discipline is actually deciding to do the work that needs to be done in a timely fashion.
Right.
The thing people don't think about is without discipline, you still actually have to do that work. At some point, it's going to have to be done. But the mental health that comes from discipline, it's a game changer. I mean, we've talked about this.
Absolutely.
I've been diagnosed by one psychiatrist as bipolar, okay? I don't take medication for that. I control it with my food. I control it with exercise. I see a counselor. I've got a current psychiatrist. I have all of these things in place, all these implementations of discipline to keep myself on the right path. But the point is, since I've met Debbie, I've altered the way I do things. My car is spotless. My truck that's sitting out there right now is spotless. I get up in the morning and I make the bed. I hate making the bed. Deb knows that. If I can get out of making the bed, if there's like a way that I know I could come back at some point in the time of the day and take a nap, I'm going to be like, I'm not going to make the bed. I think that. But I make the bed. I do these things I do throughout the day because at the end of the day, the mental health that I get from coming home and knowing everything is accomplished is huge. I keep myself out of that chronic anxiety. I keep myself out of that super deep depression. And it's not because I'm taking a pill for it. It's because I'm actually training myself to get through my day with success.
Over the years, I've worked with a probably maybe a handful or two handfuls of professional athletes, football players, all different walks of life, all different types of professional athletes. And it's not like that's all I do. It's just over the years I've had the opportunity, and I feel thankful for the opportunity. What is so similar in each of their cases is that they come in and they say, I was so disciplined when I was a player. We did this, we did that. We had these practices, and we always did this and we always did that. But now that I'm not doing any of that, I don't know how to get a pattern outside of it. And I always say to them, just like I would anybody else, well, then we create the new pattern.
Right. And
we create the new pattern for you, the new normal now.
That's what I'm saying is that is a part of what we do, because to Jocko's point, when they're playing a professional sport, all of their coaches, all of their health advisors, all of their doctors, their nutrition coaches, their strength coaches, it's an external discipline.
Right.
Now, they're disciplined to get up every day and go to work. I'm not trying to take away from the players. They do that. But they have external discipline holding them in place, just like in the military where you have a drill sergeant. That is what we do.
Yes.
We are that external discipline for you. We're a family. We're a network of people that are like-minded. The Bible says to surround yourself with like-minded individuals. Yes, I believe that is talking about other Christians, but I also believe it's people that are looking to get to the same place in life that you're trying to go.
I believe
if you're going out every night and consuming alcohol, and I'm not trying to hate on alcohol, but if you're going out every night and you're consuming alcohol and you're partying and you're drinking and you're trying to get healthy, it's going to be really hard to lock that down because you're surrounding yourself with people who aren't on the same plane that you are.
I jump out of bed every day to do what I do. And I do it because I have a sincere passion that I believe was inputted in me by God to help change lives. And so I will tell you, if you walk in my door, the door of my office, I will take your life and your health and your future so serious. It will be as if it is mine. So if you need more discipline and you want a lifestyle change, our 6-month nutrition program will absolutely help you get there.
Yeah, you'll end up leaving law enforcement and opening a gym.
That's right. And for more information on that program, it's integritytrainingsystems.com. And if you're ready to take your body to that same level and you need someone to investigate your imbalances, call us for a free personal fitness assessment at 636-299-2208. Pray this information really reaches you and you make the decision to become more disciplined and make some changes.
We'll see you next week.
God bless you.